Welcome back, brave listeners, to Gloomwood Radio. This is your host, Dawson, coming to you from the heart of the shadows. Thank you for tuning in once again. If you enjoy these journeys into the unknown, please do us a solid and hit that like button. Share this with a fellow thrill seeker. And of course, subscribe for more tales that lurk in the dark. And if a story really gets under your skin, consider hitting that super thanks button to support the channel. It helps us keep the signal alive. All right, let's get to it. Tonight's story comes to us all the way from a listener in Thailand. It's a place rich with history, culture, and a deep-seated belief in the spiritual world that might be different from what many of you are used to. So I ask you to listen with an open mind. Think of it as a chilling piece of folklore, a story to be savored around a campfire. Don't think about it too much, especially the next time you eat a certain fruit. This story is called The Watermelon Ghost. Our story begins about 40 years ago with a man our listener called Uncle Chan. Now, Uncle Chan was a young man back then, around 27 or 28, and he came from a well-off family in Bangkok. They were importers of agricultural machinery, which meant Chan spent a lot of his time traveling to the most remote rural parts of the country to demonstrate new equipment. This lifestyle instilled in him a deep love for the wilderness. He became an avid trekker, a true adventurer. But he had one peculiar habit. He always went alone. He'd tried group treks before, but couldn't stand the noise, the mess, the bickering over food. For him, the jungle was a place of solitude and peace. This particular trip took him to the beautiful, untamed province of Kanchanaburi. He was there to demonstrate a new water pump to a small, isolated village nestled by a river and a man-made weir. The place was breathtaking, raw, untouched nature. It was exactly Chan's kind of place. After a successful demonstration, as the villagers prepared to head home, Chan decided he wanted to stay the night. He asked the village headman for permission to camp by the weir, partly to enjoy the scenery and partly to keep an eye on the expensive pump overnight. The headman seemed hesitant. "You can," he said, his voice low, "but be careful. A few months ago, during the rainy season, we had a terrible flash flood. The riverbanks aren't stable. It can be unpredictable here." Chan, being a confident young man, simply nodded and thanked him for the warning. He wasn't worried. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, casting long, eerie shadows, he was left completely alone. He walked back and forth from the village to the weir, carrying his camping gear. By the time he was finally ready to set up his tent, the sky was a deep, bruised purple. He was so focused on clearing a spot for his tent and organizing his supplies that he paid no attention to his surroundings. But once his small camp was set, he finally took a moment to sit and soak it all in. And that's when he saw him. Out in the middle of the river, with the last light of day glinting off the water, was the silhouette of a man. The figure had his back to Chan, and he was rhythmically ducking into the water and then standing up as if he were fishing or searching for something on the riverbed. Chan wasn't alarmed. He just figured it was a local villager out for a late catch. He turned his attention to dinner. Canned fish and a bottle of a potent local rice spirit he always carried to ward off the jungle's chill.
He sat there, enjoying his simple meal, the silence of the forest broken only by the chirping of insects and the gentle flow of the river. The man was still out there, still bobbing up and down, always with his back turned. He took the bottle of rice spirit. Back then, they had these metal caps you had to pop off with a little pull tab. He hooked his finger in the ring and pulled. Pop! The sound, though small, seemed to cannon through the quiet evening air. Instantly, the figure in the river stopped, and then, with a speed that was unsettling, it whipped its head around to stare directly at John's campsite. John froze for a second, a little startled. Was that a coincidence, or did he really hear that? He tried to shrug it off. He poured himself a drink and was about to take his first sip when he heard a new sound. Shh, shh, shh. It was the sound of someone wading through the water, pushing against the current, coming straight for him. He looked up and saw the man from the river slowly emerging onto the bank. It was an old man, walking stiffly, dripping water as he made his way towards Chan's campfire. Chan relaxed a bit. He looked like any other elderly villager, harmless. The old man came right up to the fire and squatted down, smacking his lips together. My, young man, a bit selfish, aren't we? Drinking all alone and not even offering a sip to an old man. John laughed, relieved. Oh, my apologies, uncle. Please join me. I saw you out there. I was wondering when you were going to head home. Did you catch many fish? The old man just smiled a thin smile and held out his hand, gesturing for a cup. Chan found a spare aluminum cup and poured him a generous amount. They started talking, sharing stories under the stars. But as they talked, Chan began to notice something odd about the old man. His eyes, they were dull, flat. There was no light in them, no reflection from the fire. Chan dismissed it as a sign of old age, maybe cataracts.
After a while, the old man eyed Chan's can of fish. Pah! You eat that processed junk? Why not have some fresh fish, the best kind? Before Chan could reply, the old man reached a hand behind his back, as if into a basket, and pulled out a glistening, freshly caught fish. Here, he said, let's grill this. Much better. Chan was thrilled. What a stroke of luck! He quickly fashioned a skewer from a branch, and they began to cook the fish over the fire. It was delicious, but it was strange. No matter how much he ate, he never felt full. He finished the first fish, and the old man simply reached behind his back and produced another, then a third. By the fourth fish, Chan's curiosity was getting the better of him. He couldn't see any kind of basket behind the old man. A container big enough to hold so many fish should have been visible, at least partially. "Uncle," Chan asked, "just how many fish did you catch tonight?" "Oh, plenty," he chuckled, "more than you can imagine." "Really?" Chan pressed. "Can I see? Your basket must be huge." The moment Chan asked to see, the old man's demeanor changed. He fell silent. He stared into the fire, a strange, conflicted look on his face. Finally, he spoke, his voice barely a whisper. "It's better if you don't. It would spoil things."
He then abruptly stood up. "Well, it's late. I must be going before I lose my way in the dark." He turned to leave, but paused and looked back at Charn. "Oh, and before you go back tomorrow, don't forget the watermelon. Remember it." And with that, he turned and disappeared into the pitch-black jungle. Charn was left alone, a little confused, but mostly content to have had company and a free meal. He cleaned up, carefully burying the fish bones as experienced campers do, and went to sleep. The next morning, Charn woke up late, packed his gear, and began the long walk back to the village. As he was leaving, he glanced over at the banana grove where the old man had vanished. To his surprise, he saw a small patch of watermelons growing there, an odd place for them to be. He remembered the old man's strange final words, but thought nothing more of it. When he arrived back at the headman's house, a crowd of villagers was gathered, looking at him with an unnerving intensity. The headman walked straight up to him. "How was your night?" he asked, his face grim. "It was great, actually," Charn replied cheerfully. "I wasn't lonely at all. An old uncle came and kept me company. He even shared his fish with me." As soon as those words left his mouth, a hush fell over the crowd. People stood up from their chairs, their eyes wide, and slowly started walking towards him. He was a strange fellow," Charn continued, now a bit nervous. "Oh, and the weirdest part, he kept telling me not to forget the watermelon he said was growing in the jungle." At the mention of the word watermelon, the village headman let out a choked cry. "Father!" He sprinted into his house and came back out moments later holding a faded black and white photograph. He thrust it in Charn's face. "Was this the man you saw last night?" Charn studied the photo. "No," he said. "That's not him." A collective gasp went through the crowd. Someone whispered, "It must have been Uncle On." The headman's face was pale. He grabbed Charn's arm, his grip like iron. Where did you see this watermelon?" Charn explained the location near the banana grove by the weir. "You must take me there, now," he demanded. "But I just walked for 2 hours to get down here," Charn protested. The headman's eyes filled with tears. He pleaded, his voice breaking. "If you are too tired, I can carry you on my back." Seeing the desperation in the man's face, Charn couldn't refuse. He led the headman and a procession of villagers back up the long, arduous path to his campsite. When they arrived, Charn pointed. "There, the watermelons are right over there." The headman ran towards the patch. The other villagers followed, with Charn bringing up the rear, completely bewildered. He watched as the headman knelt beside the largest watermelon. He gently stroked its rind, tears streaming down his face. Then he began to dig at the soil around the base of the vine with his bare hands. He gripped the main stem of the watermelon plant firmly. He took a deep breath, and with a great heave, he pulled it out of the ground. And dangling from the tangled, dirt-caked roots, white against the dark soil, was an entire human spine. The flesh was long gone, but the vertebrae were still connected, a perfect, horrifying chain of bone. The villagers explained what had happened. 3 months ago, during that flash flood the headman had warned him about, 2 men had been swept away by the raging river while fishing at the weir. The headman's father
and another man named Uncle On.
They had searched for weeks, but only Uncle On's body was ever recovered. The headman's father had simply vanished. The father, they said, had a peculiar habit. He loved watermelon, and he never, ever spit out the seeds. He ate them whole. They pieced the story together. After he drowned, his body must have washed ashore and settled in that grove. As his body decomposed, it became a rich fertilizer. And the undigested watermelon seeds in his stomach, they began to grow. The man Charn met wasn't the headman's father. It was the ghost of his friend, Uncle On. Unable to rest, he was trying to lead someone to his friend's final, unmarked grave. The fish he kept pulling from behind his back, they weren't in a basket. That was why he said seeing it would spoil things. And his final, cryptic clue, "Don't forget the watermelon," was his only way of pointing to the truth. Charn felt a wave of nausea wash over him as the horrifying realization hit. The fish he had eaten, the strange, unsatisfying meal, had been offered by a ghost. And if he had found and eaten one of those watermelons... Our listeners said that for over a year, Uncle Charn couldn't even look at a watermelon. The thought of that sweet red flesh, nourished by death, was a flavor he could never forget. A chilling tale, isn't it? A ghost not of malice, but of loyalty, trying to bring peace to a lost friend. A huge thank you to our listener from Thailand for sharing such a powerful and unsettling piece of personal history. And that's all the time we have for tonight on Gloomwood Radio. Join us next time for another story from the edge of reality. Until then, stay safe and listen closely to the whispers in the dark. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and consider leaving a super thanks if you enjoyed the story. This is your host, Dawson, signing off. Good night.